is Jay Rin. This is Jenna Kopitske over here, and we are in the Sound Underground here at Heid Music. This first song is called Vintage of Love. "1962, port wine, sweet to the lips. Longing to stay on mine. A black and white movie, a curious plot, classic and timeless, all that you're not. Vintage of love, rich and divine. Vintage of love, I am aching to find. A scratch on a record, the sound of a voice, real and weathered, a beautiful noise. A tiny gold locket, with treasures inside. Open your locket, and I'll show you mine. Vintage of love, rich and divine. Vintage of love, I am aching to find. Vintage of love, imperfect and true. Vintage of love, could it be you? Vintage of love, rich and divine. Vintage of love, I'm aching to find. Vintage of love, imperfect and true. Vintage of love, could it be you? Vintage of love, vintage of love.
Welcome to the Sound Underground at Heid Music. We are honored to be here today with some special guests here. Before we get started, I got to make sure to introduce our president, DeDe Heid, who is a champion of all sorts of things: music, music education, women in the arts, women in music, women in the industry. And we are extra delighted to have with us Jay Rin and Jenna Kopitske. Thank you so much for joining us today. Well, let's get started. DeDe, how are we kicking off?
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, you're really usually the best at this, at getting us on track, right? You know, actually, John, I think I want to just kind of give a little backstory to this a little bit, if that's okay.
Please.
So what I am so excited about is having Jenna back home in Wisconsin, in Appleton.
Woohoo!
So proud of you, Jenna, for how you're following and chasing your dreams. I'm going to cry.
Get some Kleenex in here next time, right?
I want to say thank you to you ladies, because you were in the house at Heid Music last week. And then as you were leaving, and I then pinged John, I was like, wait, John, we've got to have these ladies back and talk more about your journey and really the roots here of Wisconsin, which is a big part of what we're trying to do in Sound Underground. And we're excited to talk about your first time to Wisconsin too, Jay. So, but truthfully, right, I've been able to reflect over this last week about a lot with Jenna. And so as we're kicking off to summer music, Jenna, you are truly a heartbeat of downtown Appleton and summer music scene. I was reflecting and thinking as we're prepping for Street Music Week, and thinking
So many memories.
out in front of Gabriel's Furniture when that was still here. Gabriel's was a thing.
My whole drum kit. I don't know how old I was, but it's so cool to like watch like the segments on TV, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I wear that shirt? But it's great to see how far I've come along and, inspiring other kids to do what I did.
I mean, you probably were in middle school, I feel like.
I have the same face, so I was probably a little older, but
And we've been going for 13 years now, though, so, but yes, and your parents being probably your best groupies, biggest fans.
oh, for sure.
Right?
Never ask anything of them, but they always support.
So you have been downtown Appleton for Street Music Week with your whole kit and a cute rug that was underneath there, so it looked beautiful and had the sounds all going.
Oh, yeah.
Raising money for Feeding America of Northeastern Wisconsin, right? So sharing your time to help others in need. Fast forward through to like what is kind of not the end of summer, because here in Wisconsin we need to hold on to summer as long as we can. But
That's
Mile
right.
of Music. And it also makes me think of Jenna in downtown Appleton. Talk a little bit about your Mile of Music experiences.
Sure. Well, the kind of music that I produce, I'm an instrumentalist. So George Winston was a huge inspiration. He unfortunately passed away last year. I was so devastated. Cool connection. I met him at Hyde Music, both in this location and the Green Bay location, growing up, and got to talk to him, and he got to sign some of his books. And he was kind of, the pioneer of composing for, solo piano. And it was a great inspiration for me in what I like to do. So applying to play at the Mile in the venues didn't necessarily work, but I thought, no one's playing on the street. Like, this is constant foot traffic. Nobody's doing this. So the corner by Cleo's, the Holiday Bar, and across from Houdini Plaza, I don't know how many years in a row I just stationed myself there, made sure that I had the cord underneath the rug so people weren't tripping, and just for hours, like maybe 8 hours each day, just busking on the corner, selling CDs the old-fashioned way.
And a highlight, I can also remember seeing you at the closing jam and getting up with Wild Adriatic.
Oh yeah, that is a very cool video on YouTube for anyone listening.
We'll have the link in the description.
Well, it was crazy because they had so many jammers come up, and it was getting late at the end of the night, and I said to my parents, they definitely forgot, like we shouldn't bother them. And then all of a sudden, Jenna! And at this time, I didn't really get into a lot of covers, a lot of music like that. I was playing for original artists around here. So they had this whole list. I'm like, I know like 3 on here. And so they just threw What's Up, for non blondes. I'm like, yes, this is a great one. And we just went off with it. And that was at Spats.
And then I would be remiss to think of something else that's in that summer Hyde Music and Appleton kind of scene is Rock You. And you've done some really cool things with our Rock You camp.
It's so great to see the returning kids and get to teach them, what I know on drums, guitar, keys, and how to, play with each other in a group. So I remember my first experiences around 6th or 7th grade playing in rock bands. So I see myself in them. I'm gonna get them to play a Foo Fighters song.
And speaking of good YouTube content, that's still out there, I believe, is you at Rock You playing War Pigs.
That is true. That was at the PAC. There's nothing like having like the spotlight on you and realizing you have to remember everything. But I was crazy. I was doing like octaves in the left hand, and like the melody in the right hand. This is all instrumentalist. Yeah, that's out there too.
Fun performances, definitely demonstrating a lot of flexibility and a lot of versatility. And like you said, things that you can teach these other kids that see you and look up to you of the listening skills, the adaptability, and making sure that instrumentalists who know how to serve a song, serve another artist they're working for, it's such an unspoken thing that is important, but you do it very, very well in a way that like highlights it nicely. And it's cool to see.
Well, thank you.
One more thing, Jenna, before I bounce into some things with Jay here, is you also have other roots here, this building at Hyde Music Appleton, with a teacher here.
Yes, Bruce Kessner. He is a celebrity here at Hyde Music. I appreciate him so much. I took lessons from him for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. It's really cool that on this tour, he got to come out and see me play drums for Jay, which was his first time seeing me play anything other than keys, during like Street Week or, the Mile. So I really appreciate him, and I have fond memories of like the recitals back up on the top floor. And yeah, he's just great. He plays at George's piano bar all the time. So anyone locally who wants to see foot tap and good time, go out and see Bruce.
Foot tap and good time. Or
That's
not
a very-
local, right?
That's a very
Come in.
Bruce-ism. Yeah, foot tap and good time.
Bruce-isms.
So Jay, it's your first trip to Wisconsin, I hear.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so and you have been being taken all over
Yep.
by your ambassador. So tell us some highlights of what you've appreciated about
well,
Wisconsin.
there's some videos online you can check out on Facebook. She took me around the Packers Stadium. We tried on the cheese heads. I got to try Nature's Touch milk in a bag.
That was my first time too, actually.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. We were at Lamer's the store yesterday.
Oh my goodness, those caramels are so good. Yeah, we've been eating a lot. It sounds like a lot of cheese curds and trying them in all their forms. The squeaky ones, the fried ones. Some of them have been shaped like triangles and cubes and other.
And so do you feel like Wisconsin does cheese best? Could you say that now coming
I
and
would
having
say.
this-
I mean, it's I don't know if anywhere I've been quite competes.
All right, you heard it here. Disputing the California ads.
Oh yeah, oh goodness. I just threw my own home state under the bus. So I'm originally from Southern California. Out there we have Altadena milk. That one's like
And the Happy Cows ads. And But better cheese.
I think Wisconsin wins. Don't tell anyone.
I'm going to
The
amplify
microphones
that.
caught that.
Oh no.
Maybe it could be part of a song someday.
Maybe.
Okay. You can do a little ode to Wisconsin, the two of you. And
She's always writing
your
songs.
roots
So
to
I-
the-
Wisconsin,
wouldn't put it
wild and
past her.
free, like the hair of DeDe.
Wild and free. Like the hair of DeDe.
We're making a song right now.
There we go.
my day is made.
The remix will come out later. I love it.
It's definitely good to be here with Jenna, and like everything we were talking about earlier, like she's one of the most impressive musicians that I've ever gotten to work with, and is really good about being tasteful with the songs, but also like throwing in like her own flair, which makes it her, and it makes her a blast to work with, because constantly I'm like, every time we play a song, it comes to life in a new way. But I never feel like, it's going off the rails, because she is just like, she's always there to, support, but also she shines like on her own too. So it's been really cool to work with her. She's a phenomenal keys player, which today we might do a little keys, guitar kind of arrangement. But as a drummer, oh my goodness, Jenna K slays is the hashtag. Everyone, you can hashtag Jenna K slays.
It's true.
That's the slogan she has around Nashville. She's so you're a Wisconsin celebrity now, but also in Nashville, she's made a name for herself. And probably, they say it's a 10-year town, but Jenna's made it like a 2-month town, with the way she just came in there like a
shucks.
storm. I mean, it's just a testament, to her work ethic, to her delivering results, to her kindness with other people that she meets. And I feel like I'm in good hands, getting the Wisconsin tour, but also getting great music experiences playing all over the state, but also here at Heid Music. We had a really special time last week in the Grand Piano Lounge. That was really cool.
Well, I'm glad I took you up here and that everyone gets to hear your new record.
Yeah.
So it's
oh,
phenomenal,
yeah.
everybody. There's so many different tracks on there. There's like the punk kind of rocker number. We have like the folksy one to close it out. I mean,
Little jazzy numbers. It's very, that's
It's a
why I
lot.
said on the fringe. Fool, because a lot of people think it's foolish to go into music, and this is my first record. I put every last penny into it to make it happen, and it was a huge leap of faith for me, but one that, I don't know. It was worth it. I wouldn't change it. But yeah, on the fringe part is because there's a bunch of different genres that I kind of like pull from throughout the record, that a bunch of different influences from blues to folk to rock and roll. And I'm really proud of it, and it's been exciting to share.
As you should be. And what a talent to pull together all those genres into one, right? And be able to evoke so much different emotion for people, but tell your story. Is there a specific track on there that you would say has your whole heart more than anything else?
Oh, wow. It really varies. Every single song, is very special to me and has its own life. Today we will be doing one that I guess, as far as like hitting the feels, it was written through a time of immense intense transition for me. I was getting out of a marriage and moving and a lot of life changes, a lot of unknowns. And that was right at the time I decided to start doing music full time. It was June 2022. And I was sitting in the church where I used to work with. I had my guitar, and the song came about. That one's called Can't Escape Sorrow. And it's just about, even the most positive of changes, like there's grief, because one thing's going away and it's paving the way for something new and beautiful to come in. But I think we always have to kind of face that grief and be unafraid to do it. And so that's what that song is about, how we need to face our feelings. Otherwise they'll sneak up in other ways that are, sometimes not the greatest. So, it's about, that kind of reality that we gotta, face the feels. Or face the music. Oh, look at there. There's a pun.
But that's very brave of you. One, going through your transition and journey, right? Yeah. But then being able to share that with others so they can find the strength and not be afraid. But I also love how you said that, right? That these provide other opportunities, but not to shy away from that sorrow that could be there. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
It's neat when you write a song and then sometimes don't even realize, I don't know, that song has been impactful for me at later points in time too. Like I might hear it and it hits a little differently. So then there's like one experience with the song as a writer, but then if enough time passes, sometimes you get to hear it again. It's kind of cool to re-experience it in that way.
Have you experienced this yet with any of your releases where someone else comes to you and tells you this song you wrote means this to me, and it shows you a totally different facet of what you thought you were saying, and it connects with them on this different level?
Absolutely. And that always just, that is the most, powerful, like kind of meaningful thing when I hear that from people. But I often say, I'm like, music is powerful on its own, I'm just the vessel, but I'm thankful for the times where, someone connects to what I've put out. And recently, actually, with that song, a good friend of mine, she had texted me and said that every time she hears it, it speaks to her. So I've always said, I make music because I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But, if it speaks to one person, then I have purpose. Yeah, that always means a lot. But it's fun because I always ask people after they've heard the record, like, what's your favorite track? And I get a variety of different answers because there really is a mix of all sorts of stuff on it. So.
My favorite changes on the daily. Like,
but your all-time favorite is?
Take Shelter in Me, everybody.
That one's kind of, the rootsy kind of soulful one at the end. There's a big jam with gospel vocals and
acoustic
saxophone.
Guitar, and then the end is just huge. Closing out a film.
It's a lot of fun.
I love it. Can we because John, you're very involved with your worship music in amazing ways. John, I know that's very important to you, and we'll bring you back home sooner than later again for a visit. And Jay, you've now mentioned that and different things. Can you all, because I think that's really important to know how faith can get us through things, but also how it can bring us together, unify us, and what it's done. I don't know if you guys would share some of your experiences.
You read my mind because you mentioned that, and it's definitely something that, like, you both have in common as kind of like inception points, too, with a lot of your relationship to how much
100%.
Music is more than just a diversion or a hobby. It's, well, there, I'll tee that up.
So. Very well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it is scary. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, you do music, like that's terrifying. And there are a lot of parts, big question mark unknowns, and I do believe that it is a leap of faith, and it's trusting that something's going to catch you on the other side or redirect you in a way that is exactly where you're meant to go. If one opportunity doesn't work out, I think for some it can be like a life-altering experience, or maybe they consider hanging up their hat, with music. They go, oh, well, I didn't get this one thing. I know for me personally, having that faith that like, oh, well, that just wasn't meant for me. But like, I still believe in, the skill sets that I've worked hard at. And I try to remember those moments where it's been impactful for people. And that gives me, the drive to, keep going and believing in what I'm doing, and that there is a God that's kind of, has his hand on me and is going to catch me if I fall. Even at times, figuring out how to do it full time, there were definitely times where I was like, oh, okay, looking at the finances going, all right. But then remembering like, okay, like God takes care of the birds, like I'll be fine. And sure enough, there were times where like maybe I had a certain bill and I'd make that exact amount in tips, the following week. And I'm thankful that, little by little, I've been blessed with, the opportunities that I need to, keep going. And those opportunities have grown. And I'm just grateful for the day I get to do it. And I feel his hand on all of it. And even bringing people into my life, that's been a big one. Because you can't do things on your own. It takes a village or a community. And
Jenna, when you're here, where do you play? You are at Appleton Alliance, is that right?
Yes, Appleton Alliance Church. I love everybody there. I certainly, grew up there. I remember like auditioning to play, and there was like these phenomenal drummers, and I was just like, gosh, like I want to understand, because a lot of, Christian contemporary music is riding the toms, which can seem, speaking to a drummer, like, you can keep the kick on like all beats.
Oh yeah, it's an idiom.
Yes, but there's so many things you could do, and they have this huge setup. If you've ever, been there or looked at the live stream, all these like custom little instruments and fun cymbals and all that kind of thing. But those people retired, and I, went a lot more often and got put on the schedule, and they even offered me to like play for their women's ministry events, which I still fly back for, because they're like, well, we need a female drummer for this female band. Makes sense to me. And that's really fun. They go to the Osthoff Resort every year for the Encounter weekend, and yeah, I feel extremely led by God as well. I'm living like a completely different life after moving. I got to travel so much last year, and I counted it was 22 different artists over the span of just the 1 year. And I was a student for really up until May of last year, so really only half a year. I pray every day. I praise him in, the quiet moments, and I know that I couldn't do any of this without him. And when people, compliment me or say, as, Jay was saying earlier, just that, the gifts that I've been given, I realize that they're not even my own. I want to give back him up there. Hopefully that answered the question.
And I think ways that as people go through different things in their lives, what can they turn to, what can they reflect on, and find where their faith
It's very
can
comforting.
be, or find their different outlets for how they express themselves, all of those things. It's very healthy in good ways.
And especially as like for younger musicians, the church is such a beautiful way to also just like plug into doing music and learning. Like a lot of contemporary Christian stuff, or I don't know, church music in general, like it's meant to be accessible for people to jump in to singing. And so I always tell people, I'm like, it's a great way to, learn harmony and, to practice all that good stuff. And most churches that I've worked with have always been, pretty welcoming, with like their praise teams or their choirs, pretty inclusive. And so, yeah, for younger musicians who might be watching, I would always encourage them to plug into a youth program or like even younger, a kids choir or something. That's how I started, and learned a lot.
Well, because even from like a technique and chops standpoint, you've experienced this, I've experienced this. What it simultaneously requires and demands of you is you have to be good. You have to practice your technique and read and harmonize on the fly and things like this, and go with quick structure changes of the song that the director might like point quick. And you have to do it quickly, because there's usually not 4 or 5 day a week rehearsals. It's show up an hour before service. We're going to do quick runs of the tune, stop, starts. All right, go. People are coming in. That urgency forces you to have to really hone your chops. But then you also, back to especially for rhythm section players, you have to learn that subservience of, I am not here to impress people with this blazing drum solo. This is church. I am here to humbly help people have an experience. If people are watching me going, wow, look at that player, then I did something wrong. It's almost like if they don't notice me, nailed it.
Well, it's real interesting because now in Nashville, people are like, hey, we'll pay you, like, we need a drummer, like, every church service is this amount of money. And I'd never heard that before. It's so interesting, and there's a lot of, non-Christian people that play in the churches every Sunday, and it kind of changes, your outlook on things, I feel.
I can relate to that, because there are even churches here in Wisconsin that pay, and I actually have that chuckle with the pastors at my church that it's like, well, I do this at my church, but sometimes I'm going to go do that one because they pay $200 a service, and I like paying my bills. It is a thing.
So talking about Nashville, that's where you two met, yes? Yeah. Okay. And Jenna, you were teaching me a little bit the other day when we had coffee
yes.
about the writers' labs and those things. Can you all talk about kind of the collaborations and how things kind of come about? And
I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Oh,
only
definitely. You've
done
done a lot of it too, but
Just a couple.
co-writing is definitely a big culture, within Nashville. Like a lot of songwriters will work together to write songs. Oftentimes the songs you hear on the radio are not just written by one person, they're collaborations. I think that's honestly too, like what makes Nashville, so fun. I think of it as like the army base for musicians, to grow and like train and collaborate with one another, and yeah, Jenna's done a lot of co-writing, had some film placements too.
Yeah, exciting things coming up. I had never written lyrics before, as you know, just stuck to the piano and drummed for other artists. It's cool to be like 12 minutes away from Sony, ASCAP, and all these places. It's like, well, why not? And I knew eventually being surrounded by people like Jay and people who write a lot more often that I would probably try too. Yeah, I've written, I think it was seven tunes in the last year. So that's something, right?
well, you let us know when anything can be leaked, or we can help
Yes.
celebrate with you.
Another kind of unique part of Nashville is they do these writers' rounds where you have honestly 3 or 4 people set up kind of like we are, but more in a straight line on stage at the same time. And everybody takes turns playing an original song. It's really cool if you get to visit Nashville. Be sure to see a writers' round. They're great venues like the Listening Room or the Bluebird Cafe that are really well known for seeing some great writers. And you just get a taste of what makes the city so special. Because I'm originally from Los Angeles area, and I love going back to California, seeing family, doing shows out there. And I feel like what LA does really well, is the entertainment and the show. But Nashville, really that it all starts with a song, and Nashville is the hub where music begins.
There's a place in Green Bay, I can't remember the venue. It's called Nashville of the North. And I know Amelia Ford has played it. Jordan Blanchard is behind it. Wisconsin does the whole writers round type deal and has invited Nashville artists to actually come up. Madison Wolfe is her name. That was the first band I had joined when I moved down south.
I love
met her
that.
in Green Bay. She's just like, I need a drummer. And at this point I had just walked at graduation. And I was like, I'm driving down in 2 weeks. I'm going to move. And she's like, no way. That was a very cool connection. But
Well, and I do think, right, with Mile, the scene of Mile, and where we're honoring our Wisconsin musicians, but also bringing in musicians from all over the world, there's more in the works for how do people experience northeastern Wisconsin. And no, it is a safe, economical, family-friendly place, but just continuing to support the arts and creativity, which makes an even better place to live.
We got airports. It's a good hub. It's a good home base.
Well, and great universities that are around, right? You're a UWO alumni, right? 2 UWO alumni is nice.
There we go.
Both with Allison Shaw. You have ties to Allison Shaw.
I'm trying to think who else might have been there.
Who was Nate Edwards already
Yes.
doing recording when you were there? Nate and I graduated together. We were both Wally kids.
That's crazy.
Super inside baseball UWO rec department thing for cable rapping. Does Nate still teach the Wally rap, as we
I
affectionately
was
call it?
a audio production major for 1 week, everybody. And I switched so quick. An XLR is about all this brain can handle. Sorry about that. I recorded my second EP totally just at the university in their studio there. Nate helped with the mastering and all that kind of thing. It was an audio 4 class, and they're like, we need piano sounds. So I played one, and they're like, well, she should play a bunch more. And I'm like, well, I'm about to release some stuff. So I recorded everything, and it was super convenient. They sent me the files, and it was great. I walked out of there with an
Isn't that a great resource where it's they're getting homework out of it and grades,
Yes.
and
Well,
you got
it was
you
a
got
little,
a demo
little
out of
longer
it.
than that. I definitely worked on it for a bit, but most of that was live performance, and it was cool. It was on an acoustic piano when they just had the mic by the
Which one did you
the pedal.
use?
I have a picture of it somewhere.
Down in the band
Deeper.
room, that one?
The choir.
Okay, so probably the Steinway in that room. Yeah. I think there's still a Baldwin in the other band room.
Have you been to NAMM yet, the NAMM show?
No.
Okay,
not
so we're going to
yet.
get you there. So sitting on the NAMM board.
Yes, we need her there.
And my excitement for the organization that I helped to start with 2 of my dear friends, women of NAMM. It was an honor to see Jenna at the NAMM show
You were
with
such
her
a rock star
dad.
up there.
Oh, stop.
It was great.
Talk a little bit about going to the NAMM show.
My goodness. It was so awesome. I had never been to California before. So I was like, Dad, come with me. Mostly split cost, but also because I enjoyed, I wanted to be there with him and all that kind of thing. And he didn't know what the heck NAMM was, and I had never been there. It was great. I'm interested in like sync licensing, so kind of, motion picture, matching that with music, meeting music supervisors and editors and people who can, essentially song pluggers to all the channels and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to go for the panels mostly. But also, there's like all these brands, like all these lighting companies and stuff for guitars and crafty people making drums and the tables and all this crazy stuff. So it was great. There was definitely a lot to do. But I had been talking with Peisty Cymbals for, I don't know, quite some time. I was about to move to Nashville and I got this cymbal in the mail. And I just kind of knew at that point, like, whoa, like this wasn't meant for the next door neighbor. Like this was meant for me, like this came to my house. And there was this great card in there. Kelly was super sweet. She's like, congratulations on your graduation. We're very proud of you. So then I had taken some professional photos with it. They sent a t-shirt as well. And then I kind of wanted to go to NAMM all the more to thank them for that. So I did, and I got to meet everyone. I was smashing all their cymbals, and I was like, well, I'll see ya. And they said, whoa. She said, no more horsing around. She said, let's get you on board and join the family. And I'll never forget, they had like a ton of like McDonald's bags, and they're like, do you want to take some McChickens? I was like, yes. So I remember I like ran out of there, probably making a mess on the floor. Sorry, NAMM. And I FaceTimed my mom, and I was like, you'll never guess who's like the next Peisty artist. She's like, well, who did you meet? I'm like, it's me! And it was so awesome.
That's so cool.
Oh.
And people's dreams can definitely, come true at NAMM.
So I'll plug, there's individual memberships available, and obviously we're very proud to be NAMM members.
And the performances are crazy. Lawrence, that soul R&B group, they're like one of my favorites, and they're just playing after Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, that jazz group. Definitely will be back. And I have a lot of friends that I know that are speaking in some panels this coming NAMM too.
Well, I love how you said that, the workshops, and truly they're a year-round resource outside of just the show, right? For all the musicians, I think, to know the advocacy work that NAMM does. I've been a part of going to Washington, D.C. to how do we make sure that there's music in our schools, and how are we supporting community initiatives. So I think it's how we all collaborate and make sure people understand. Did you play in any school music growing up, Jay?
So
yes.
I went to Belmont and studied music and graduated in 2017, studied commercial vocal performance and music business. Prior to that, growing up, most of, my music instruction was, in the church. And my dad's also a musician, Jimmy Becker. You can look him up.
Jimmy Becker.
Yep, rocking Jimmy Becker. And so he and I started performing at like coffee shops and fairs with him when I was 11 or 12, and we had a duo called Deep Fried Bubblegum, which was kind of another name for like Southern pop music. It was very rootsy, but also upbeat. Think June Carter, Johnny Cash type harmonies, and he's quite the picker on the git fiddle. So.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I can't wait to find some of these.
Don't forget the violin. I about fell off my chair after I heard that.
I was in a community orchestra in high school, and similar to how you jumped into songwriting, you're like, I want to write songs. I've always loved the violin, and I just kind of was like, I want to play violin, and everything lined up.
As if one could just pick it up like that.
Oh man, a friend from church, she had an extra one. It was just a little student violin. She let me borrow. Then I was hooked. Got a great deal at one. I wish I had come to Heid Music to purchase my other violin.
Well, you let us know anytime. We can
All
ship
right.
to you in Nashville.
Well, sounds
we'll put a bunch of
good.
stuff in Jenna's car when she comes home in August.
I
We're just truly
love
trying to
it.
lock her into this August date. Can you
Yes.
tell that she's back as a rocky?
Yeah, she's going to be back in August.
Unless she's got to go write more, be on site for a movie,
I got the violin. I was practicing, probably like 3 to 5 hours a day. And then just kind of jumped on the sign-up form for this little community orchestra. And believe it or not, I was not last chair. I really anticipated I would be last chair, but I was about, 70% of the way back. But I think what helped me is I had some pretty good ear training. So even I could tell I'm a little under on top of things. And there were a couple performances where, I would kind of freeze up midway through and be like, other than that, it was a great experience. And I always encourage people to, jump into learning new things, Some people are like, oh, well, I can never do that. Well, with that mindset, but, sometimes just pick up the instrument, I don't know.
Although
Nowadays,
I used to take cello lessons, and
Yeah.
I had the banana thumb, and I miserably failed.
Oh, no.
I took it from a student, he was at Lawrence University at the time, and I literally could see him chuckling at me as I was learning. And I was like, come on, man. I don't get it. But in that case, I think you got
But then
very
it led
lucky.
you to where you needed to be, right?
It confirmed that drumming was where I should have stayed.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get the last laugh. I think you'll be just fine.
Again, can specifically relate. Took cello lessons at Oshkosh for a while to be like, oh, I always wanted to learn cello. And my goal wasn't to like be able to hang with good orchestral musicians. It was more just kind of to save money of like, hey, if I'm going to write a pop song or something where I want to throw just like drone whole notes in the back, I'll do it myself. It took me 4 hours struggling with some easy whole notes to just call up a friend and be like, hey, can you just come do this? I can't do this. She knocked it out in 10 minutes and was like, all right, we're done.
And when you dabble in other instruments, it helps with your like primary instrument too, you know?
100%.
Yeah. I don't regret it whatsoever, but yeah, you don't want to hear me play violin.
But that's good advice, right? Like not to be afraid and to dabble. It can also help you to appreciate your other friends in the different aspects.
Someone once told me that if you look at a guitar, all the frets are kind of like octaves. You have the C to C and it keeps repeating. It's kind of the same way you would look at a guitar. And then the way that, you get kind of percussive with your guitar at times. That's like your kick. And then a slide could be like a snare. I mean, I don't know. I hear all these things.
You sound like Dave Grohl.
I was just going to bring up Dave Grohl.
You sound like Dave Grohl in his book
This
where he
is
talks
phenomenal.
about how he plays
When we
guitar
were
like a
talking
drummer.
earlier
Yeah,
about that session for
does.
Strategic, David said that I was like Dave too, in a way where I would just have like this take and then, well, let's redo it. And then it's like never quite the same. So this is twice in the same 2 weeks. Well, Dave, if you're watching,
Oh.
this is for you.
Kindred spirits right there.
And I keep meeting people in Nashville who have met him or have ties to him or his family, so I'm
bound to happen.
getting close.
Jay, I'm sure that Jenna will always invite you, but from other friends in Wisconsin, you always have a home here at
thank
Heid
you.
Music or in Wisconsin, and we'd love to continue to help you and be a part of your journey. So please make sure you keep in touch with us. And Jenna, we'll look forward to. But I know you're going to have a final closing questions, and I know I did not let you do anything.
Oh, no.
But I would be remiss if I didn't just quickly double check in, having two experienced and strong and very good ways women tackling the music world. What would be your advice to other young women on being engaged in music? Maybe a couple watch outs or different things that you'd say, or how you maybe talk to your younger self, whatever it might be, but thinking female to female and as musicians, what might you help to advise?
Hone your craft and trust your voice. I think those are really big lessons that, I'm still learning sometimes. Sometimes it's easy to shy away in I think especially in group settings, sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially if we feel like, wow, like everyone in the room, they have this credit. That trust that if you're in the room, you belong there and something brought you there for a reason. Enjoy the ride at that point, and do what you do, but continue to hone your craft, continue to trust it, and don't be afraid to share it with others, because that's the first big step. How are people going to know what you do if you don't, talk about it and share it with others? Believe in it too. If you don't believe in it, how are others going to believe what you do? So sometimes insecurities, can be everybody's worst enemy. We got to, just kind of put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that.
thing.
We've certainly all had our experiences. I've had my fair share in, even moving to Nashville, the way people look at you and treat you compared to, others that you can see visibly. But I would say find, your idols and look up to them. I know Brandi Carlile is one for you. For me, it was always Sheila E., Karen Carpenter, and also, playing music with your friends. I'm thankful that I know a lot of female musicians, and I did growing up in elementary school, middle school, just keeping close with them and, shying away from it. Like Jay was saying, they won't see the sparkle that you have if you just give up,
Yeah, mentors are so important too. So
Oh, yes.
Yeah, having
get a good
gratitude for
mentor.
others, asking others questions, finding ways that you can serve other people through what you do, I think is one of the biggest secrets to success. It's not necessarily like sometimes people are like, oh, well, it's who you know. No, it's like how you recognize, okay, this is what I do. How can I provide it to others? And that's where you find really, really good working relationships that can lead to longevity in this industry.
And just being kind. People work with you because they either like you, know you, or trust you.
Can't be said better, and it's definitely, it's that thing. I'm sure you've both heard it said as advice and have dispelled it as advice, and saying it here. The version of what you both just said that I've said to like students of mine is like playing well and showing up at time are baseline expectations, but people have to want to be on that stage with you, or on that bus with you, or in that studio with you. So be cool.
Another piece of that came to mind, because you did mention like comparison. I think that's like such a hard thing for especially younger musicians to, get over, be like, oh, well, they're doing this or they're doing this. Or in Nashville, it's challenging because everyone's doing music. So it's a very easy thing when you move there to kind of go, oh, well, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. But my dad actually told me one time, he's like, just as much as you can't be anybody else, it's good to, celebrate those things that make you unique. There will always be something that someone else can do, maybe, a little differently, or maybe arguably in some areas a little bit better. And that's okay, because we all have our unique set of strengths.
That's why I started the Jenna K Slays, keeping the journey in one place.
Good stuff. So we're going to make sure, John, that you're going to drop in, write all of the different things so people can follow.
So we're going to have all those links in the description of where to find you on all the different social media platforms, your websites, and where they can get CDs and vinyl of Fool on the Fringe by Jay Rin. So make sure you check that out. And make sure you keep following Jenna Kopitske and watching for her credits in some other forms of media out there, because there's definitely stuff on the horizon that we're super excited for you for, and honored to be part of your journey and a stop along the way.
Likewise, I appreciate you guys so much. And thanks for asking us to be here today.
Yes, thank you all so much for having us.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening to Sound Underground and Jenna Kopitske and Jay Rin. Check out those links in the description and make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notifications, and tune in for more like this.
You can't outrun sorrow, 'cause it always finds a way to come to the surface, no matter what you think or say. It'll say Simon's anger, or apathy or hate. It'll show you what you wanna see, so you won't have to bear its weight. You can't escape sorrow, it always finds a way. Been around for centuries, and it's fed to us daily behind every screen. For a moment I feel healing in the movement of a breeze, and it's funny how a feeling can bring us to our knees. You can't escape sorrow, it's the reason that we sing. Together is a concept you and me will never see. So I'll do my best to stay distracted. You can't outrun sorrow, 'cause it created play by place. It holds on to every memory, and to view them we must pay. But it seems the pain has gotten better day by day. If you don't let it get you, it'll never go away. You can't escape. You can't escape. You can't escape. Can't escape. And happiness a bad dream, where together is a concept you and me will never see. So I'll do my best to always finds a way to come to the surface. No matter what you think or say, it'll say its name is anger or apathy or hate. It'll show you what you wanna see, so you won't have to bear its weight.